Seems like office vacancies are back on the menu, guys, with San Francisco office vacancies hitting a new record high. And just like I predicted in the previous videos, it's going to continue to go higher. I think by the end of the year, vacancies will reach officially 40% in terms of the vacancy rates for offices, retail space, all those combined together. I mean, you already have the biggest mall in San Francisco going vacant. Nordstrom left to have 500,000 square footage. You also have Uber and Lyft downsizing your office, so that's another 300,000 office space being empty. And the crazy part is many of these companies who have left, they're not considered vacant because they're still leasing it, right? They're still leasing it, but there's no employees in them. So the moment the lease ends, they'll actually stop the contract. And this is why every single month we're seeing vacancies going up. Whereas some cities, for example, in Florida and Texas, we're actually seeing office vacancies staying very stable at like 10-12%, and some even decreasing down to 5-7%. But San Francisco's office vacancies is just off the charts. I mean, bar owners even complain that this is basically like a ghost town at this point. If you go to the Mission District, it used to be just bumping with people. Now it's just pretty empty. There's streets. You could literally see like 2018 versus 2023. Like back in 2018, 2019, it was like packed with people. You could easily see like 100 people walking by. Now it's like 20 to 30 people walking by. Like you actually see a drastic difference in the population decline. And the amount of commuters coming to San Francisco for work is basically zero. We're actually seeing a lot of young people really enjoying online work. I mean, why would you live in San Francisco, pay a crazy San Francisco rent when you could live elsewhere for cheap? Better life and better living, and without the homelessness, the fentanyl, and the crazy stuff that San Francisco will shove down your throat. But right now, we're seeing office vacancies hitting all-time highs. And it's actually very frightening to see this kind of stuff because all of these massive buildings, they used to be worth hundreds of millions of dollars, but many of these buildings are now being sold with transaction prices from -50 to -80% off, which is a crazy high amount, right? We see Wells Fargo sell their office building, which they bought in 2005. So you would think that there would be some price appreciation. They bought it for a little over $100 million. They recently sold it like a couple months ago for like 40 million bucks. So you're telling me after 2 decades of price appreciation, you still got a 60 to 65% loss? That's something that's unheard of in the real estate world, especially first world cities. And look at the vacancy rates, guys. Like back in the old days, vacancies were at like what, less than 5%, and now they just slowly went up to 34%. It's going to hit 40% by the end of the year. And this is likely not the peak, and that's a frightening part because you're going to be seeing many of these very expensive offices, very expensive condos slowly going down the drain. And we already have stories where whole entire buildings, like these condo complexes back in 2018 and 19, will easily sell off, right? This is like, what is it, like 20 units here, a combination of 1 and 2 bedrooms, low rise. This is a very good neighborhood too. It's around the Mission Bay and Dogpatch area, which is like near the sea, the ocean. It's a very nice place to live. I mean, if you drop the Google guide down, full of greenery, it's very safe. And it's like a very hip, low-rise type of vibe. Like this is where all like the people who made it go to, I guess. People who have some amount of tech money. Because condos here, like 2 bedrooms sell for like 1.5, almost $2 million back in the old days. But you now have whole entire buildings, despite crazy amount of prices off. Nobody wants it. It's a 24,000 square feet property that recently was just created. So initially they list the whole entire building at $19 million. Then they listed it for $16 million. And then they tried to list it for even lower than that, but nobody wants to buy it. Now I'm sure they tried to rent it out, right? To pay off like the interest rates, but nobody wants to rent this. The rental market is completely busted in San Francisco. Now, you may be asking, why don't they just sell the condos individually? That's what they did initially, but nobody wanted to buy this. And this is one example of a construction project that probably started before the pandemic, which recently finished now, and now nobody wants to buy it. I mean, the timing of this is just so bad. This building is just really good looking, modern, it's new. It will easily sell out in like 1 or 2 months. Back in 2018 and 2017, like before the pandemic. But now, nobody wants it. I mean, vacancies are hitting all-time highs, and Redfin report is saying that San Francisco home sellers are 4 times more likely to sell at a loss. We're seeing the average San Francisco home price down almost 12% in the past year and 13% from its peak. But the estimates don't really do it justice. If you look at most of the listings on Zillow and you look at the peak to now, many of these condos are actually selling for dirt cheap prices. I mean, even newly constructed boutique condos, right? With parking. This is a very nice unit. It's a good size 1 bedroom for $978,000. This would have been a unit that would have been easily over $1.2 million. And here's the thing, it's not selling for $978,000, right? Nobody's buying a 1 bedroom in San Francisco anymore for $1 million. They have to sell this for a super cheap price. I mean, look at this unit. Probably already some pretty crazy price cuts. $868,000. And we're going to see more and more of these units cutting prices as time goes on because you can't actually sell these for cheap. I mean, look at this one, $750,000 for 1 bedroom, newly constructed as well. And as time goes on, you're going to be seeing more and more of these units going down massively in price. And look at this one, like $650,000, 2 bed, 2 bath. I mean, these are getting lower and lower by the day, right? If you go to like Miami prices used to be very cheap. Now Miami buildings and some of those condos are more expensive than San Francisco, and just shows you how far San Francisco has fallen and will continue to fall as well. And with so many people losing money in San Francisco real estate, it's just not a great sign. And by the way, San Francisco also deters anyone from coming in and doing any sort of real estate investing, because if you come to San Francisco or the Bay Area, Oakland, for example, if you want to do real estate investing, you want to rent a lot of the homes out. That's basic real estate investing 101. You take out a mortgage, you buy a home or property, condo, whatever, and you rent it out for money. But guess what's happening? Like the laws in San Francisco, Oakland, it's so weird because you have squatters going on. So you have small landlords like this one. Oakland landlord stands to lose everything after the tenant fails to pay rent for like 3 years. And the landlord is paying the mortgage, the interest rates, and the bills, the property tax, which is very expensive. I can't imagine paying the property tax in the Bay Area. Even in Oakland, it's crazy expensive. And the person is like going bankrupt. And you may be like, no way you could squat in a unit for 3 years. I mean, that's the Bay Area for you. That's California for you. And this sort of scenario is becoming more and more rampant in San Francisco. Especially where we're hearing a lot of horror stories of people who bought condos and units here. They rent them out. The people just squat there for like 2 to 3 years. Like they're still taking advantage of the pandemic situation to squat in these units. Now, here's the thing. I think rental laws should be fair. There has to be some extent. Landlords can have super big power, but when it gets to a point where somebody could squat there for like 3 years, and there's even stories of people squatting in a unit and then renting it out as an Airbnb so they could collect money, is something that I've never even heard before. There has to be a good balance, or else nobody wants to invest in real estate here. This is exactly what's going on. Construction properties, construction companies have all halted their building. You already have some of the biggest buildings like One Oak, Hayes Point, 2 massive 40 to 50 store skyscrapers now completely being canceled because of how bad the situation is in the Bay Area. And it's only going to get worse. So let's see what happens. Whole entire condo complexes being handed back to the bank is something I've never even heard from. I've never heard stuff like this. This is like some 2008 stuff.